I caught my neighbor dumping motor oil into the storm drain. I reported him anonymously. The next day, I found a dead fish nailed to my shed. I told him what I saw. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "I didn't see a thing. But my camera did." I live in a small town called Benton, Missouri. It's quiet most days.
People keep to themselves.
I've been here 12 years. I know my neighbors, even if I don't talk to them much. Ron moved in 3 years ago. Works on trucks. Always had a line of broken-down pickups in his driveway. Greasy hands, short fuse. We didn't talk much, but I nodded when I saw him. That's just how it is around here. A few months back, early October, I was having coffee on my porch. It was still dark out. That time of morning when the streetlights are still on and everything's quiet. That's when I heard it, a splash, like liquid hitting metal. I walked down my front steps toward the street. That's when I saw it. Oil, black and thick, sliding down the curb toward the storm drain. I didn't see who did it, just the mess it left. At first, I figured maybe someone spilled something while working on a car. But the next day, it happened again. And the next. So on the fourth day, I waited. I sat on my porch with my coffee and phone ready. At 6:12 a.m., I saw Ron dragging an old plastic jug out of his garage. He didn't look around, just walked straight to the storm drain and dumped it. The smell hit me from my porch, burnt oil. I didn't say anything that morning. I just watched, recorded, then sat there with my jaw tight. That afternoon, I called the county environmental department. I gave an anonymous tip. I didn't want my name tied to it. I figured they'd send someone out, and that would be the end of it. The next day, I found something nailed to my shed. A dead fish. Not just thrown there, nailed to the door. A big silver base, belly torn open, starting to rot. 2 thick nails driven through its head and tail. Just hanging there like some twisted message. I stared at it for a long time. Couldn't move. Then I got angry. I marched over to Ron's place. He was in his garage, changing a tire.
Calm as anything.
"You put a fish on my shed?" He looked up, wiped his hands. "What are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about." He looked me dead in the eye and said, "I didn't see a thing." And that was it. No denial, no threat, just that line. Like a dare. But I had the footage. I didn't tell him that yet. Over the next few days, I noticed him watching me. Not directly. Just small things, his blinds shifting when I walked outside. A cigarette, but still burning on the edge of his porch when I got home from work. One morning, I found motor oil splashed on my driveway. Not enough to ruin it, but enough to say, "I know it was you." I checked my security cam. I had it angled toward the yard, but not the shed. That was my mistake. So I changed the angle. Put up another one behind the garage. Got a better view. The next time he dumped oil, I got it. Full shot. His face, the jug, the label, even the way he wiped his hands on his jeans after. I saved the footage. 2 copies. One on a USB drive, one in the cloud. Then I reported him again, this time not anonymous. That's when things started to unravel. One night around midnight, I saw his truck pull out. He usually didn't leave that late. I followed. Kept my lights off until I was about a block behind. He drove out past the highway, down an old industrial road. Stopped behind a shuttered warehouse. I parked and watched. He got out. Opened the back of his truck. Pulled out 2 huge drums, both marked with faded labels. I couldn't see everything, but I saw enough. He rolled one to the edge of the ditch and tipped it. Black liquid poured out. That's when I knew this wasn't just about one jug of motor oil. This was a pattern. Probably going on for years. After I watched him dump that drum, I stayed there, hidden, barely breathing. He didn't notice me. Or maybe he didn't care anymore. He rolled the second drum back into his truck and drove off like it was nothing. I sat in my car for 10 more minutes. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, at least not fully, but from the weight of what I knew now. This wasn't just one bad neighbor dumping oil. This was someone who'd built a system around it. A routine. The next morning, I went straight to the environmental office in person. I showed them the video. The first one of the storm drain, then the new one from the warehouse road. They asked my name this time. I gave it. The agent, her name was Gina, took notes. Asked when I took the videos. How long it had been happening. She said something like, "We've been tracking illegal dump sites for months. Yours might connect the dots." They said they'd be in touch. That night, I came home to find the lock on my shed cut. At first, I thought maybe it was kids. But nothing was taken. Nothing except one thing. The trail cam behind the shed.
Gone.
Just clean snipped wires where it had been bolted. That's when I knew Ron had figured it out. I checked my cameras again. Nothing clear. Just a shadow moving by the side fence.
No Face, no track.
Just a figure. Then things got worse. A week later, a city car parked outside Ron's house. 2 people in suits went in carrying clipboards. They were in there for about an hour. I stood by the kitchen window the whole time. After they left, Ron came outside. He didn't even look my way. Just stood in the yard with his hands on his hips, staring at the street like he was calculating something. The next morning, someone spray-painted "rat" on the back of my garage. Big red letters. I didn't bother calling the police. I knew who did it. He wanted me to be scared. He wanted me to back off. But I didn't. A few days later, I got a message from Gina. They were moving forward. Based on what I gave them and other reports they matched it with, Ron was officially being investigated.
The EPA was involved now.
It wasn't just the city anymore. They needed more. More video, more proof of how he got the oil, who gave it to him, where it went. I told them I'd get it. That night, I parked 2 blocks over and waited. When Ron's truck pulled out, I followed again. This time, he went the other direction into town. Stopped behind an old mechanic shop. It was closed, but the back door was cracked open. A light was on inside.
He went in.
10 minutes later, came out with another drum and a cart. That's when it hit me he wasn't just dumping it. He was getting paid for it. He loaded the drum, drove off. I followed again. Another field. Another ditch. Same routine. I recorded everything. Then I made another copy and mailed it to the city. 3 days later, 2 trucks pulled up to Ron's place. 1 city, 1 federal. They talked to him on the porch. I watched through the slits of my blinds. His wife came out yelling. His daughter started crying. He didn't go quietly. He argued. Threw something against the wall. But they left without taking him in. Just handed him a notice. Later, someone told me he had 30 days to show up in court. 30 days to fight it. Or lose everything. That night, someone broke into my truck. They didn't take anything, just slashed the seats. Tore up the dash. Left motor oil smeared on the steering wheel. That's when I realized this wasn't over. He was going to keep pushing until one of us broke. I filed a police report about the truck damage. They didn't seem too eager to help. Took some photos, asked a few questions, said they'd keep an eye on things. But I could tell. It was just another file to them. Another neighbor dispute. They didn't know Ron like I did now. For a while, it was quiet. A few days passed with no oil, no weird messages, no property damage. I let myself believe maybe it was over. Maybe he got scared. Maybe the pressure finally made him stop. Then, late one night, I heard the sound of tires and gravel. I looked outside and saw a car idling across the street. Not his truck, some beat-up white sedan. Headlights off, engine running. It just sat there for 20 minutes. Then it slowly pulled away. The next morning, I found footprints in my backyard. Someone had walked around the side of my house, stood under my kitchen window, then walked back the same way. They never went near the cameras. They knew exactly where not to step. I changed all the locks. Bought better lighting. Put up more cameras, hidden ones this time. I started parking 2 blocks away and walking home, just in case he was tracking my movements. But nothing happened. For a while. Then Gina called again. "There's something we didn't expect," she said. "You might want to sit down." Apparently, Ron had a second property. An empty lot 10 miles outside town. Registered under a business name, R&R Hauling. It hadn't been touched in years. Or so they thought. But after they searched his name through their system, they found records, deliveries, fuel purchases, even a few permits filed in his wife's name. The EPA agents visited it last week. What they found was worse than what I imagined. Piles of black barrels. Stacks of them. Some broken open, leaking into the soil. No containment. No liners. Just dirt and drums. There were dead animals nearby. A few birds, a fox. A raccoon, half decayed. She said, "We're dealing with something a lot bigger now." I didn't know how to feel. On one hand, I was glad he was finally being exposed. But it was more than just a bad neighbor story now. This was a crime scene. A toxic dump site. Something that could poison land and water for years. And I was the one who lit the match. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying it all. How it started with one jug, and now this. Around 2 a.m., someone rang my doorbell. I froze. Didn't move. Just watched the camera feed from my phone. It was Ron. Standing on my porch.
No hat. No truck.
Just standing there, staring at the doorbell camera. He didn't knock again.
Didn't say anything.
Just stood for a full minute, then walked away into the dark. The next morning, my mailbox was wide open. Inside, a manila envelope. No return address. I opened it slowly, hands shaking. Inside were printed screenshots.
Of me.
Sitting on my porch. Walking into my house. Coming out of the store. Talking to Gina. They were from different angles. Different times of day. Some from far away, others from shockingly close. He'd been watching me, and I never saw him.
I didn't go to work that day.
I sat in my living room, door locked, shades drawn, just staring at those photos. Trying to figure out how long he'd been doing this. How close he'd been. How many times I didn't notice. Some of the shots were from inside a car. Others looked like they were taken from behind fences or trees. One was of me standing at my sink through the kitchen window. He'd been everywhere. I called Gina, told her what I found. She didn't sound surprised, just tired. Said it was now part of the investigation. They'd add it to the file. But I could hear something in her voice. Like she was trying not to tell me everything. So I pressed. Finally, she said, "There's been an issue with our internal system. Someone may have leaked parts of the investigation." "What do you mean leaked?"
We don't know how yet.
"But we think your identity was exposed." My throat tightened. She said they were looking into it. That it could have been someone in a related agency, or someone who just had access to the files and passed them on. "Could Ron know I'm the one who gave them the videos?" I asked. A pause.
Yeah.
He probably knows. After that call, I stopped going outside at night. I kept a baseball bat by the door. Slept with the hallway light on. Not because I was scared of what Ron might do in the open. I was scared of what he'd do in silence. A week went by. No new threats. No visits. But every day, I woke up waiting for something. Shattered windows, my truck torched, my name written in oil across the driveway. Then one evening I got a knock on my door. It wasn't Ron. It was his wife. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in a week. Her voice was low, almost trembling. "We need to talk." I let her in.
She didn't sit.
Just stood in the middle of my living room, hands shaking slightly. "You need to stop this," she said. "You don't know what he's capable of." "I didn't start anything," I said. "I just recorded what he did." She looked at me, dead in the eyes. "He's not just dumping oil." "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then finally said it. "He's collecting it for someone else. Selling it. Storing it off the books. There's more people involved. That's second property. That's not even his idea. Someone else owns it. Someone bigger." I didn't say anything. Just waited. She continued. "You're not safe. Not because of him. Because of them. The ones paying him. You've poked something ugly." Then she turned and walked out. No thank you. No goodbye. Just a warning. That night, I went over every video I had again. Looked for anything I missed. License plates. Backgrounds. Faces. And in one of the earlier clips, behind Ron's truck at the warehouse, was a second man. just barely visible, wearing a dark hoodie, standing at the edge of the frame, watching the drum roll out. I zoomed in. The image was blurry, but his posture was clear. He wasn't there by accident. The next day, my internet went out. Then my phone stopped connecting to data. When I checked my router, it was fried, like it had been zapped. I drove to a friend's house 2 towns over to upload the files to a backup drive. I didn't trust anything at my place anymore. I started getting strange voicemails. No voice, just static, sometimes the sound of a truck engine idling, once what sounded like a metal drum being rolled across concrete. Every time, the call came from a blocked number. I went back to the EPA office and gave them everything. I showed them the photos, the voicemails, the zoomed image of the second man. Gina looked at me and said, "This just got deeper than we thought." She handed me a card, her personal line. "If anything happens," she said, "call me before you call anyone else." I stopped sleeping through the night. Every creak of the floor, every flicker of a streetlight, I get up and check the cameras. I moved them again, higher this time, wider angles. I checked the feeds like a habit, like brushing my teeth or locking the door. But even with all that, I still missed it. One morning, I stepped outside to grab the paper and saw something on the lawn. A plastic oil jug. Empty.
Clean.
No label. But inside it, wedged tight, was a folded photo. It was a picture of my parents' house. The one 2 states over, where they'd lived for years.
I stared at it for a long time.
Flipped it over. On the back, written in thin, scratchy pen, "People far away can still get hurt." That's when it clicked. This wasn't about the oil anymore. It wasn't about the fines or the court case.
This was personal now.
Ron, or the people behind him, had moved from trying to scare me into something else. They were trying to break me. I drove out to my parents' house that same afternoon. Didn't tell them why, just said I wanted to visit. I checked their doors, windows, the backyard. Everything looked fine. But I told them not to answer the door for anyone they didn't know. I didn't go into details. I didn't have to. My mom could see it in my face. "You're in something, aren't you?" she asked. I nodded. She didn't press. Back at home, things kept shifting. Quietly.
Subtly.
The oil stain on my driveway grew larger, even though I wasn't leaking anything. My trash cans were knocked over every other night. I started seeing that same white sedan parked at different corners around town. Never for long. Just enough for me to notice. I started driving with a hammer under my seat. I told one friend, just one, everything. Gave him the copies of the video files and the photos and told him, "If something happens to me, send these to the news." He looked at me like I was being paranoid. But I wasn't. The court date finally got scheduled. Ron didn't show up. Neither did his lawyer. That same day, the EPA showed up at the warehouse I'd recorded. It had been cleared out. Not just emptied, sanitized. Like someone came in with bleach and thyme and made everything disappear. All except for one thing. A single oil drum, left in the middle of the warehouse floor. Empty.
Clean.
And inside it, sitting upright, was a trail cam. Not one of mine. This one was newer. And it was recording. Gina called me that night. Her voice was different, shaken. "We think they're watching us now, too." I didn't ask what she meant. I just closed my blinds, sat down in the dark, and waited for whatever came next. I used to think doing the right thing would make me feel safer. Like telling the truth was a kind of shield. But now, most nights I just sit in the dark with my phone in one hand and that fish hook in the other, wondering how far this is going to go, and who's going to pay for it next. Because the scariest part isn't that he knows what I did. It's that now I finally understand what he meant when he said, "I didn't see a thing."